Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman on midweekpolitics.com.
Hey, welcome back to Midweek Politics. I am David Pakman. Joining us on the phone is Robert Peters, president of Morality in Media, and here he is to talk about something that we were paying very close attention to, which was this recent FCC ruling about indecency. Hey, Robert, thanks for calling in today.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me, sum up for us, first of all, what this FCC ruling says. My understanding is that it's a move in the direction of suggesting individual utterances of the so-called 7 dirty words aren't necessarily indecent. Is my reading accurate?
I tell you, at one level, I was surprised that it was a Court of Appeals decision, federal Court of Appeals decision here in Manhattan, and the case really focused on the isolated expletive policy change that the FCC made, I guess it's several years ago now. That was really the focus of the case.
Right.
But instead of deciding that narrow issue, and one, at least unless I read the case erroneously, the court really didn't answer that question one way or the other. What it did was say that the overall FCC indecency law enforcement policy is unconstitutionally vague. Left open the question of whether the law itself is constitutional, and in my opinion, it left for a future day the question of whether, there are situations where a single expletive could violate the law. In my opinion, it would be insane to hold that never could a single expletive violate the law. But court didn't answer that question.
So, give us a sense. Our audience, I'm sure, their number one thing they'll want to know as we talk here, morality in media, does it have a conservative outlook on indecency and profanity and pornography, or liberal?
No, in today's dichotomy, we'd certainly be on the conservative side of the issue. I must confess that I wasn't here back then, but back in the 1970s, Morality in Media submitted an amicus brief in support of the FCC in the Pacifica case, FCC versus Pacifica,
right.
The 7 dirty words case.
Yeah, of course.
We submitted a brief back then in support of the government.
And so tell me, if in a perfect world, if you could just decide what should be legal to broadcast, what should be decent or indecent, what do you think that right now the rules are too strict? Are they too lenient? What would you like to see?
Well, I tell you, if I lived in a perfect world, there wouldn't be any of it, by my definition. But I came to the conclusion some years ago that I don't live in a perfect world, and I came to a related conclusion that it's not within my power to create one.
But wait a second. When you say there wouldn't be any of it, you mean there wouldn't be any restrictions, or there just wouldn't be people talking about what you consider indecent or profane?
There wouldn't be any vulgarity, profanity, obscenity, blasphemy. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have these things. But we don't live in a perfect world, and I don't think that mankind is going to create a perfect world. So I honestly think that, in this area of life, as in many other areas of life, the smart course of action would be to find a workable compromise, not going completely to one extreme. Perhaps the Taliban these days would exemplify one extreme.
But so when you say
extreme, which would be, in my opinion, in many cases exemplified by the ACLU.
Wow.
So I honestly
hold on a second. Hold on. Let's back up here for a second. When you say blasphemy, what do you mean by? I didn't know blasphemy was even in the picture here.
Well, yeah, the Broadcast Indecency Law, which was enacted by Congress way back in 1927, speaks of profane language, which would I think back then it would encompass blasphemy.
But what does that mean? Does that mean what do you mean by blasphemy? Is that talking negatively?
I'm not. I'll tell you, historically, blasphemy was not considered protected by our First Amendment. Now, the modern-day Supreme Court changed that. Personally, I understand the difficulty with banning blasphemy.
But Robert, what I'm trying to get a sense, what is blasphemy? I don't understand the term. I'm not a religious guy.
Depends on how one would, I'll tell you, I don't know if there's any one definition that would completely, to some people, if you don't agree with their religious theology, it's blasphemy.
Well, what is it to you, though? What's your opinion?
Level. But I think, from a legal perspective, I think it was railing against God, saying, just purposefully bad things about God. But in today's world, if you don't agree with somebody, it's blasphemy. And obviously, I think we don't want the government punishing people because they don't agree with someone else's religion and express that dissent. I mean, that to me would be why we have a First Amendment. But blasphemy, I think historically, raging against God, calling God. But, whether that would be a wise restriction today or not, to me, isn't the issue.
I think it wouldn't be. Midweek Politics is made possible in part by CSR Wire, the corporate social responsibility newswire at csrwire.com, by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.